chapter 19. Now he has given us, in very brief, he has kind of summarized what are these sadhana chatushtaya, what are these four qualifications. In the third qualification, you have another six. So, what are these? He mentioned that Viveka, Vairagya, Shamadamadi, Satka Sampatti, and Mumukshitva. So, first we have to now start detailed discussions. First is Viveka, then Vairagya. And then we have discussed what are these six qualifications: Samadhamadi, Satka Sampatti, right? Viveka, Vairagi, and then you have Uparatihi, Titiksha, Sraddha, Samadhana. These, all of these we will discuss today. The first one. Now, the first thing is mentioned is Brahma Satyam Jaganamithya Ityeva Rupa Vinishyayaha Soyam Nitya Nityavastu Vivekaha Samudharitaha. So, what is this Viveka? We have touched upon it yesterday. Brahma Satyam Jaganamithya, and we have discussed that even earlier several times. Does it mean everything we see is completely false? If you are seeing a snake in a rope, is the snake completely false? No, it's not completely false. You don't see the snake on a wall. You don't see it in the sky. You see it only where there is a rope, because the similarity between the rope and the snake create this confusion. But there is some adhisthana, there is some kind of a substratum, without which this kind of a projection of snake is not possible. So the sansara, the jagat that we see, the multiple realities that we witness during the course of our waking state, and then we experience in a subtle way certain things in the dream state, all these are not completely false. They have some relationship with reality, but they are not sat in a ultimate sense. In an ultimate sense, they are not true. But there is some truth in them. And what is that something true about them? Something true about them refers to the foundational aspect of it. So they have a foundation in truth, but they are projected. They are appearing as X, Y, Z. Right? Now, what is being mentioned here is that this prapancha, this samsara, we use the word anirvachaniya to describe it. It's neither completely true nor completely false. But it is not like the rabbit's horn. Rabbit doesn't have horns. You cannot talk about it. You might use these words, but these words do not refer to anything in reality. When you say samsara, when we see all this, we say there is a cat, there is a horse, right? So there is something which is prior to, which is beneath, which is not visible to us, but that works like a foundation. And that is that astita, that easiness, that is the foundation. Now, we had discussed that at length while discussing the 16th verse of the Bhagavad Gita. Nasato vidyate bhavaha na bhavo vidyate sataha. So, if something is asat, it can never have existence. And there can never be any abhava of sata. If there is a sat vastu, it can never be absent. It can never have non-existence. We had a long discussion there. So whenever we say pen is, pencil is, human is, dog is, the easiness is common to all of them. This is called avyavichari. It is always concomitant. It is always there everywhere. What keeps changing? The names and forms. There is a man, it becomes there is a woman. There is youth, becomes there is old age. But that easiness is everywhere, and that easiness is referring to the substratum, the sadvastu. That is what is referred to as that ultimate reality, the Brahman. But we have to realize this. It's very easy to mention it. That Viveka, what is Nitya and what is Anitya. If we have some understanding of what is more permanent, what is Sanatana, what is there for a long time, we will aspire for that one or what is going to pass away in a few minutes. If you are buying a product, it may be cheaper, but if you have to pay a few dollars more for a product which is going to last a longer period, you'll opt for that one which is going to last for a longer period. Now, when it comes to the most valued thing in life, happiness, why anybody would ever aspire for something which is very temporary, except that the mind in its ignorance, the mind in its own habitual sense of craving, would always opt for something which has a powerful presence in our thoughts, despite being completely ephemeral, despite being very, very temporary. It's quite possible that the most temporary thing excites you more. Like there is an examination and students are studying, but suddenly somebody plays a beautiful song on somebody's mobile phone. And there are just imagine a hostel room where you are there and you are immediately trying to listen to the song. You have an examination, you're preparing for it, but the mind wants to deliberately delve towards a reality which it considers pleasant. That is how we opt for things which are exciting in the short run, even though they are harmful or less beneficial in the long term because of ignorance. But this first step, therefore, is Viveka, having that sense of discrimination that Brahma Satyam Jagana Mithya. Mithya means anitya, not completely false, but it is not permanent. Jagana Mithya. Ityeva Rupa Vinishyaha. So, why this, what is called Vinishya? What is Nishchayatmika Buddhi? It comes again and again in Vedanta. We have already dealt with this in Bhagavad Gita as well. Nishchayatmika means what? Sanka Rahita. You don't have doubts. Asambhavana, Viparita Bhavana, Adi Rahita. How is it possible? No, no, the opposite is perhaps more right. You don't have these kinds of thoughts. You have a feeling of certainty about the fact, whatever is written, whatever you have studied, whatever the Shastras say, whatever the Upanishads say, you are meditating on it, and you say, yeah, my mind is going towards it, but they are definitely temporary. You have at least that understanding. Soyam nitya nitya vastu viveka, and that is what is called viveka. That is nitya and anitya. What is going to stick with you for a longer time, which is going to evaporate very quickly. So there is a technical word is mentioning. Chandrasekhar Bharati is saying apramanya jnana anaskanditattvam. What is anaskandita? Apramanya. So you have a doubt regarding its soundness. If somebody says Brahman is Satya and Jagan is Mithya, it's quite possible you will have a doubt. Why what is visible to my eyes is false, and what is not visible to my eyes is considered to be more real. You can have that logic. Interestingly, people want to have that question in their mind when they're discussing Upanishads. They don't ask this question when a physicist tells them that there are several subatomic particles. They trust the scientists. They say there's something called a nucleus within an atom. Atom you cannot see, but in the heart of it, there is something called a nucleus. And then he will tell you that how the protons are staying together because neutrons are charged neutral, neither positive nor negative. And the protons are positive. How do they stick together? Then the professor tells there is something called mesonization. There is a half spin. And then he gives you a technical explanation how the protons are able to stick together. You accept it. Why do you accept it? Because there is some logic, you trust it, you respect it. But when it comes to some religious text, some Upanishads or something, you have a doubt because you have a bias in your mind that these are not true and these are not sound ways in which these have been achieved. Now, how to have thus understanding that these are also very, truths based on very sound logic. That is why Vedanta study helps you understand this. It requires a lot of vichara and contemplation. Theoretical physics also you don't have any experimentation. It's all modeling. It's all vichara in a way. Same way, the Upanishads have their own vicharas, and when you expand your understanding of it, slowly you zero in on that thing as to what is permanent, what is not permanent. And like and many Vedanta acharyas make this joke, I got a permanent job. The acharya laughs and says, really, are you permanent? You got a permanent job? So we use the word permanent to refer to a lot of things which last longer. But here we are talking about something which is that truly nitya, which doesn't have a past, doesn't have a future, which is always there, and that is that Sadvastu Brahman. And then he's saying, I had told you that the first, every prior qualification is a preparatory ground for the next stage of qualification. So without Viveka, Vairagya is difficult. What is Nitya and Anitya? That Viveka is not strong in a person. Why should he hate being in a party? Why should he dislike being in the company of rich people or go to big parties and, maybe have a lot of food and drink and buy good cars and have a materialistically commodious living? Why should he not like it? Only when he starts meditating on it, his vichara becomes subtler, his understanding becomes sharper, that he develops or dislike or kind of a detachment towards it. A healthy detachment. You're not running away. We'll discuss this, how they are trying to say it. So he's explaining now what is that Vairagya in Viveka Chudamani Sankaracharya. तद्वैराग्यं युगुप्साया दर्शन श्रवणादिभिः देहादिब्रह्मपर्यन्ते यनित्ये भोगवस्तुनि. Tadvairagyam, that is vairagya. What is that vairagyam? Yugupsa, kind of disgust, hatred, aversion. What is that? You don't like it. No, I don't want it. You might ask this question to me, Swamiji, when we were discussing Bhagavad Gita, you were always mentioning that craving is a state of raga dvesha. Whatever you are attracted towards, you have raga, a sense of attraction. Whatever might cause you some pain, you have an experience-based understanding that is going to cause you some emotional harm. Then you have dvesha. The moment you see it, you dislike it. And you say, I don't like it. And this I don't like it and I don't like it feeling is described by the Buddhists as craving. Now you are using the word vairagya, which is actually aversion. So is it not dvesha? Now, if we understand, you will understand it's not dvesha. That dvesha is between two things with which you are having indriya sanyoga. You do not want to have a spicy soup because your stomach is upset. You are opting for a nice, lovely drink of some smoothie or some kind of lemon juice or something, because that is conducive. That is what you love at that moment because you have an upset stomach. You are replacing one way of connecting with a sense reality through sensory perception with another. That is a particular low level of replacement of one particular connection with the reality with another kind of connection. This is different, vairagya. It is not replacing what kind of sense pleasure with another kind of sense pleasure. Here, this vairagya is not emotional. The manas is not, can we use the abstinence to describe vairagya? Why not? Yeah. Abstinence I'm not using because abstinence generally sort of refers to be a very powerful aspect of the celibacy. Of course, it is there, abstinence, but abstinence again, in a way, you're just preventing yourself from indulging in something. Okay, abstain from drinking, abstain from going to films, abstain from voting. Abstinence broadly is fine, but here detachment perhaps is philosophically perhaps is closer. But anyway, we'll look at it. Abstinence is also a very, very close word. Tad vairagyam yugupsaya darshana shravanadivihi dehadi brahma paryante hi anitye bhoga vastuni. Now, this vairagya is almost going to appear as if you have dvesha. Okay, so you have to draw a very thoughtful, wise line of difference. You have to draw that line of distinction with a good understanding and skillfully. because it's not dvesha, it's not emotional in content. It's a moment of wisdom with which you are kind of putting yourself at a safe distance from things where you will get emotionally trapped and pay a heavy price for it. But I agree that in some of the texts, including here, uh, to in order to glorify Vairagya, they have some powerful words used, which creates the misunderstanding as if they are describing some kind of a dvesha of a vairagi vis-a-vis sansara. Many sannyasis have not this, touch me not kind of an attitude, right? So a lot of monks, for example, if a woman says Guruji Namaste, they will run away because they have this fear. I don't want to interact with women. So they sometimes appear to sort of practice some kind of dvesha, and that is a misunderstanding. That is an uneducated, unskillful way to practice vairagya. Vairagya is absence of craving, absence of attachment, attraction. It is not hatred. It is not what you call a kind of aversion in the way you have dvesha for a person you don't like. That is not the way you dislike sansara. You don't dislike anyone. In Vedanta, you love everybody all the time. You embrace everyone, except that at a physical, emotional, or intellectual level, you know where a mind can get trapped, and therefore you are intelligently and skillfully holding yourself kind of in a quarantine mode. You are trying to keep yourself, it's like you're protected by a very strong antivirus program. You are not stopping to use the computer, but you're connecting with the internet, but you have a very good, what you call firewall to protect you. So that firewall here is Viveka. And then that antivirus program you want to have is that strong wisdom based Vairagya. But they use a few words there. Okay. What is Vairagya? Kadapi idrisa padartha sambandho mabhut. I should never ever get connected with this sort of an object, this kind of a place. And that's an exaggeration. They're saying that the real Vairagi treats the sansara kaka vishtavat. And in the sannyasa traditions, they glorify these kind of descriptions, which causes a lot of misunderstanding about our tradition because we kind of wrongly articulate some of the insides of the tradition. I mean, I'm not blaming anyone, but these are ways in which they just exaggerate it. So one of the exaggeration is that you should look at sansara as if it is the stool of a crow. It's like bird dropping. Okay, so you dislike it so much. That means it's so tuchha. It's something not to be taken seriously. No, but that is not true. That is not how it works. Once what happens is Saradama, there were some householders who had gone to talk to her. And one householder says, I'm sort of neck deep in sins, I'm a householder, and this and that. She said, no, you are quite a punyavan purusha, a punyavanta. Why do you have this kind of an inferiority complex? Without grihasthas, no spiritual life is possible. Because of them, they do this chaturashrama brata. Because of them, they do the donations, they run the institutions, they run the society where dharma is protected. So the grihastha ashrama is greatly glorified in many of the dharma sastras. So, but here the vairagya we are mentioning is meant for a restricted few. It is like there was this great philosopher called Auguste Comte. He was a sociologist. He was writing a book. So when he was planning to write this book, he wanted to practice what is called cerebral hygiene. So he stopped reading any other book. He started avoiding having arguments with other well-established intellectuals because he thought if he does so, he might get sort of influenced by their ideas. He wanted to write down his very original thoughts. Similarly, here the Vedanta Chhatra, the student, sort of wants to maintain a healthy distance from sansara. and he practices that vairagya because based on Viveka, he cannot take interest in too many things. His earlier sannyasa friends might say, let's go for a film. He said, sorry, I can't go for a film. No, but let's go. I mean, what's wrong? This is a spiritual film. But he's a monk, so he cannot go. And he's sort of like, you have chosen to do some serious science project. You are a scientist. At that moment, somebody invites you, let's go and watch a hockey match or a football match. You're not saying that is meaningless. But for you, your research project is extremely important, and therefore you cannot get out of your lab. So here the kind of practice of internal discipline which is required is so precious, is so difficult to reach, that a lot of discrimination is required to protect whatever you're doing. And that vairagya you have to practice. So dehadi brahma paryante. Why is deha and brahma both are mentioned? So ahika amushmika, phalavoga viragaha. So you don't want to enjoy the material benefits of your physical presence on earth. You also do not crave for the spiritual benefits of lot of dana, and dharma, tapaha, all that good qualities that you may practice, as a result of which you would be taken to Swargaloka heaven and you will enjoy some great moments there. No, but he doesn't have attraction for them. They are also temporary. Therefore, he wants to discover the nature of his reality, what is Brahman. Therefore, he has Vairagya. For the material benefits of being in samsara and the spiritual benefits of the great work or activities that he may do on earth, and he will get the benefits thereof, but he is not interested. Okay, so all this I don't want to sort of get into the details of it, but very briefly, the commentaries I'm not going, but as the Buddhists keep saying, yat kritakam tad anityam. Whatever you try to do, whatever is your work or activity or product, has to perish. It cannot be there. You make the best ice cream or sweet or recipe, it's going to last for a few hours. Same is true about all our good activities. They are true for a few hours, not for all the time. Now, when you do that, Viveka Vairagya, we are done. What after the Vairagya? Samadhamadi Satka Sampati, right? Sama, Dhamma, right? And then you have Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhana, these six qualities. Samadhi, Satka Sampati. Shama, now he's going to describe what is Sama. Virajya Vishaya Vrata Doso Drishtya Muhurmuhu Swalakshe Niyatavasta Manasas Sama Uchyate. So Manasas Sama Uchyate. Niyatavasta, Niyata, Aniyata. What is Niyata? It's sort of, it's not unsettled. Something which is problematic, unreliable, non-sustainable, not long lasting. That is aniyata. You might get suddenly a bit of a hailstorm. That is not niyata. It happens for a while, it goes off. Snowfall. Many of these things, they are not niyata. There are certain things which are stable, long lasting. That is a niyata avastha. Okay? Everlasting. And that you understand will automatically work if you reach there. As I told you, the first two will be sadhana and the sadhya is the next one. Sadhya is what? Outcome. Sadhana is what? Upaya, means. End is the sadhya. So viveka is sadhana, sadhya is vairagya. Once you have vairagya, that becomes sadhana for shama. Shama is what? That manasas sama uchyate. So shama word has something to do with the manas. Please remember this. Then everything will become easier. So mano nigraha samaha, damaha indriya nigraha. So we are doing one by. It's now it's kind of niche upar hua hai. Sama dama is writing after this. First is writing shama here. Virajya. So you have that vairagya. Virajya, having practiced that vairagya. Vishaya vrata. Dosu drishtya. So you first try to win your mind away lead your mind away. You train your mind as if you are teaching your 5-year-old son. Train it and guide it away from Vishaya Vratat. Vratat is Samuha, or multitude, not one. We have too many things which attract us. And whatever is Vishaya, Gochara, Gochara is Vishaya. Whatever you see, Indriya Gochara, that is a Vishaya. And so it could be like sweets, good books, good house, car, good people to talk to, right? Good places to visit, maybe a lovely natural setting where you want to have your holiday. All these are Vishayas for you. So all these multitude of Vishayas, external destinations of your senses. These external senses, and there are thoughts also inside. So Virajya Vishaya Vrata Dosha Drishtya. How would you be able to guide your mind away? You will do Dosha Darshana. Find faults with them. It's not like finding faults with your friends and all the time pulling their legs, and no, that's not what is mentioned here. You have that Nitya Vastu Viveka. You might buy yourself the best holiday, go to the loveliest place on earth. After a week, you have to fly back. If you have a problem in your office or your family or wherever you are living, that problem is going to re-emerge. So you have dosa darshan, and then you want to say, then okay, that's not a solution. Running away to a holiday is not a solution. What should I do then? Okay, idea is that I have to sort of reprogram my mind. I have to understand my life in a better way. Why am I feeling restless? So your first thing is doing dosha darshana with external objects which attract your mind. So you have dosha darshana there. Whenever you have any craving, you try to see, okay, what do I get by doing this? Interestingly, we find faults with good things. If somebody says, let's go to a temple, jaake kya hoga? Is God there? Somebody says, why don't you read this book? So what happens if I read the book? A lot of students, young ones, they say, study. What do you get by studying? It's all contacts, the reference with which you get a job. So we actually have this dosha darshana when somebody advises us to do something good. We never apply this dosha darshana buddhi when we are addicted to something or doing something habitually, which we do blindly. We never ask these intelligent questions. We ask intelligent questions not to do good things. That is not in our interest. So he's saying, dosha drishtya muhurmu, again and again, because the mind habitually will get attracted to things which it finds pleasant. Therefore, Bhagavan Sankara is telling that swalakshe, what is your destination? You want to have Atma Jnana, right? So you want to be established on the path to your destination of self-realization. If that is your goal, then you have to have mind control. That niyatavastha, manashaha of the mind, shama uchyate. So that is what is. So if you have vairagya through dosha darshana, then that shama, that you become shanta, samayukta. Shanta means somebody who has a peaceful mind of equanimity, which has been pacified. Okay, that is samauchite. Now he will talk about damas. What is that? Visayebhyah paravatya स्थापनं स्वस्वगोलके उभये सामिन्द्रियाणां सदमः परिकीर्तितः. Visayebhyah. All these, Visaya is not subject matter, but Vishaya is whatever is Indriya Gochara, whatever the Indriya connects with, your senses connect with, and promise to give you pleasure, sense pleasure. Those are the Vishayas. From them, Paravartya, you turn around, turn about, return from these objects of your sense pleasure. Disconnect with things which were wasting your time and money and energy and precious time and attention. Sthapanam swa golake. Swa belongs to whom? Swa means each indriya. Like they say, these eyes, when I mention about eyes, there is this chakshu is the golaka. And then the indriya devata is there. This indriya devata is that by indriya, I'm not referring to this physical organ. I may have beautiful pair of eyes, may still be blind. I may have actually eyes not blind, still I may be unable to see right something in front of me because I don't have good attention on it. So the Indriya Devata has to connect with that object that it is connecting with, so it's moving towards. So we through this Indriya Devata, this Indriya, that particular energy, this Indriya is, these are all, sopadhika, these are upadhis. Everything is Atman. So these are all upadhis. So the Indriyas, you withdraw them, put them back in their golakas. That means your eye would be there, but it will not run after something very attractive. Somebody shows you a picture of the Mughal gardens in Delhi, and immediately your mind says, okay, next winter I'm going to be in Delhi. I'm going to visit the president's, this bungalow. I want to see that Rashtrapati Bhavan, Mughal gardens. I want to participate in that whole flower show in the month of February, generally that happens. So you have these kind of plans and desires who come to your mind. You're saying, no, withdraw these senses, establish in their own places. Okay, the physical locations. So, and then what? Ubhayesham indriyanam. So you have what? You have external indriyas and internal indriyas. You have karma indriyas and jnana indriyas. You want to speak, you want to eat, you want to move around, you want to move your hands, right? These are karma indriyas and jnana indriyas. Both karma indriyas and jnana indriyas, bahir indriyas and the internal indriya, which is manas, the mind, when you establish them. So indriya nigraha, you nigraha means what? Agrahana. You are not accepting any input from outside world. Are you going to chop your nose off, chop your eyes off, or ears off? No, they would be there. The physical entities are going to be there, but you shall not show interest. These are all meditative practices. These are all very subtle games, and they require a lot of skills. These are not physical activities. These are all meditative. So you allow, your ears will be there. I read somewhere, it's very astounding, that Mahatma Gandhi was sort of able to sometimes meditate in big crowds, and he was disconnected from everyone. And there is some evidence to show that he had a tantric guru. He was doing a lot of spiritual practice. Now, it is recorded by somebody, and I read it in a research paper. He had an ability to switch off his ears. He may be in a crowd, but he will not hear any noise. He knew how to switch himself off. He may be in a crowd, but sometimes he will not see anything. He would be looking at people, but he would not see anything. And he thought that this was one of his preliminary achievements, which enabled him to do so many things during the day. He wrote so many letters, met so many people. So he was doing a hell of a lot of yogic practice. It was not easy. He was not an externally oriented person. He was a very, very internally oriented practitioner of whatever was his spiritual thing. That much of it perhaps he has not captured in his books, the spiritual aspect. He has only captured the political, the ethical. But the real occult aspects, internal aspects, his sadhanas, perhaps are not very much captured by in his letters and all. But this mention I have read that he used to do this Dhamma, he used to practice this Dhamma, Indriya Nigraha, in a very successful manner. He could switch. Swami Vivekananda, it's known, he could switch himself off in any particular situation. And there are quite a few people, and many of us actually are able to do it. When exams are there, when there is a big project, when you are in office, you are writing a very important project. Other people must have reported to you that they have addressed you with your name several times, but you did not respond. What was happening to you at that time? You are completely focused on your Swalaksha, completely focused, great concentration. So your Indriya Golakas are there, the ears are there, the eyes is there, nose is there, but you are not being able to experience anything. Like somebody may have a lovely cup of coffee next to you, but you are not affected by it because your nose is receiving the information, not sending it to the mind. That is what is Dhamma. Disconnecting the mind, your inner thing, from whatever sense perceptions are happening by nature. Okay, so that is, so Ubhesham Indriyanam Sadamaha. So the karma indriya, jnana indriya, when you control them, and you sort of withdraw them and hold them with yourself, that is Dhamma. Now, let us discuss the third quality, Uparatihi. Uparama means withdrawal. What is that Uparati? Why is it required? Bahyalambanam vrittesa paroti paratiruttama. So it's like a half sentence captured from the previous sloka is mentioned. Bahya alambanam vrittehe esa uparatihi uttama. Bahya alambanam vrittehe. I was reading this biography of Odia Baba I was telling you. Somebody is asking him, who is a truly self-realized person? He says a beautiful, powerful sentence. He said, "जो आदमी का दृश्य का बिना दृष्टि स्थिर हो चुकी है." Look at it, very powerful. That is complete Vedanta. So this fellow is aware, alert, and his drishti, he can see, his vision is stable without any alambana. When you are watching a film, a child is watching a cartoon show, his drishti is completely stable. It's not crying. Mother feeds it, it eats without complaint because it's focused on that cartoon show. You are watching a football match, it's your favorite match, and anything happens, you are not bothered. You're doing a very important project, or you're writing a paper. So somebody is shouting, telling something, you are not absolutely affected. That is understandable. Is it possible that you have that equanimity and stability without having to do something? So in Vedanta, they advise till you are in that state, you have to do upasana, like meditation, because you have to have saguna upasana and stuff like that till you have that sort of stability without any alambana. So what is he mentioning? Bahya alambanam vrittehe. Bahya anamalambanam. So you are no more connected. There is no external, it's not dependent on any external objects, any external vishaya, any relation. Anavalambanam vrittihi, that mental process, where you disconnect with everything, still you are all fine, you are continuing. Vrittihi. Esa uparatihi, that is the best form of uparatihi, uttama. So, like for example, there are certain examples they're giving now, the Tikakara. I'm not reading the details, I'll just mention it. So there is a big dam. How do you destroy the dam? No, nothing. You just make a small hole in it. The water will find its way and destroy the whole dam. After a few hours, the dam will be washed away. That's why the dam repair teams are all the time alert that there is no particular part which is damaged. They anticipate dam problem to the dam. It has to be maintained. Otherwise, small hole, the dam will go after some time. Similarly, in sadhana, through one indriya, something enters, one vishaya, it will completely devastate your concentration in few minutes. If you are reading something, you are meditating. And similarly, through the mind can destroy your internal meditation, and whatever the mind is trying to do can be destabilized by some vishaya sanyoga through any of your senses. So withdrawal, complete withdrawal, where you are stabilizing yourself without connecting with anything external, that is called uparatihi. Okay, so you are able to have this chitta stable without having to rely on anything. That is the critical thing. So again, the whole thing is driven by an understanding and wisdom. It is not vahya alambana vishishta. In upasana level, you will do it, but we have now come to an advanced level. Okay. Now, then titiksha. What is titiksha? In very brief ways, it's called dvandva sahanam. Being able to endure, put off with opposites, heat and cold. A lot of friends, you get very angry. Don't play hot and cold with me. And a lot of people like that. A lot of couples in their marriages, they play hot and cold with each other. Sometimes they're very warm with each other. Sometimes they don't talk to each other. They're busy in their work. Children get confused. They're perfect. That is a strategy how they manage. They know they can't give each other too much time, busy in their work. Sometimes they go for a holiday or they go for dinner or something like that. Most of the other time, they hardly in interaction with each other. They are busy. Both are professionals. Quite possible. What he's mentioning is Sahanam Sarva Dukhanam. So what is that titiksha? Sahanam Sarva Dukhana Mapriti Kara Purvakam Chinta Bila Parahitam Satitiksha Nigatyate. Satitiksha, that is titiksha nigatyate. People sing in praise of it. What is it? First thing, Chinta Bilapa Rahitam. That particular state of endurance should not be with these two adjectives. You have a lot of worries or you have a lot of cribbing. So there is a person who is ready to do a lot of work in the office, but she cribs. Oh my God, so I have to also do this, I have to do that. Too much of work, you people are all relaxing. That is not titiksha. So chinta, bila, and then maybe outside you are not cribbing, you are not complaining, but inside you are irritated. You have a lot of worries. I don't have any sleep. I'm being exploited, and this and that. That is also not titiksha. If you're making a sacrifice, but you're telling yourself, "Do you know what kind of a big sacrifice I've made?" That is not titiksha. So chinta bilapa rahitam, and then what is it about? Sahanam, that ability to tolerate. What? Sarva dukkhanam, apratikara purvakam. So they could be, it's a very tall order, okay? Gandhi tried to practice it to a certain extent. Now, other people who try to do it. The great guru, um, Arjun Dev, who was kind of executed by one Mughal emperor. He didn't upset. He said, okay, you are going to kill me. He had a lot of powers. People said, why don't you apply your spiritual powers? He said, no, I'm not going to use it for this. You want to kill me? Kill me. It's okay. Fine, I got no problems. This ultimate level of titiksha, Dvanda Sahanam. Absolutely, all pratikara purvakam. You are not doing pratikara, means you are not trying to mitigate it. So you are in a crowd, and it's quite possible that you are in a crowd, you're going to a temple, somebody elbows you, your ego is hurt. You turn around, you say, what is this? You don't know how to talk, you don't know how to be in a queue, you are super angry. Now, does it mean you're going to take in a lot of nonsense, a lot of misbehavior, ill treatment? Are you going to suffer all that? Is it what is meant here? No, that is not meant here. If you find some injustice, you need to tell. So the Buddhist monks keep advising. Responding and reacting are two different things. You have a right to respond. The moment you react, it becomes a vicious, poisonous, emotional outburst. You're not reacting. That is mindless. That is not very skillful. That is not a very thoughtful way to respond to something. Somebody is trying to hurt somebody or misbehave with some child. You're standing there. Are you going to tolerate it? The diksha? No. That is not what I would say is meant here. So far you are concerned, when your inner equanimity is likely to be disturbed by some sort of a external input of information or misbehavior, whatever, and you think that is going to disturb me, I'm not going to pay heed to it. That is titiksha. Doesn't mean you're going to tolerate injustice or one woman is being misbehaved and you are meditating and you will not do anything. Titiksha. No, that's not what is meant here. You shall respond. That is dharma. Yeah. So Bhagavad Gita we are not going to forget. You have to do this dharma, you have to protect that lady. That is your most important thing. She is Brahman at that moment. Her dignity is the most important thing for us. We have to do something to help that child, help that woman survive. There's a flood. One child is getting washed away. You will not protect the child? Titiksha? No. That is not what is meant here. It's not apathy, as Bhagavad Gita again and again explains. It's high level of alertness with a great sense of responsibilities without ego. That is the most important thing. Without ego, we have ahantva and kartitva. So you don't have this, then you do it and surrender to at the feet of the Lord. This is a much more higher state, but here titiksha would mean whatever is going to disturb your spiritual equanimity, you're not going to permit it to get the better of you, so you'll put it down. You shall not respond to it. Then, what is Shraddha? We have discussed that Shraddha is having faith in the words of the Acharya and the spiritual text you are reading. शास्त्रस्य गुरुवाक्यस्य सत्यबुद्ध्यावधारणा सा श्रद्धा कथिता सद्भिर्यया वस्तुपलभ्यते. शास्त्रस्य गुरुवाक्यस्य. So the guru is not any Tom, Dick and Harry, because Bhagavan has already explained who is a guru in Bhagavad Gita. तद्विद्धि प्रणिपातेन परिप्रश्नेन सेवया उपदिक्ष्यन्ति ते ज्ञानं ज्ञानिनः तत्त्वदर्शिनः. He is Jnani, he has done the Shastra studies, and he is a Tattvadarshi, he has self-realization. Any Tom, Dick and Harry coming on television sets or YouTube channels and telling you do this, do that, wearing fancy dresses, should not waste your time. I mean, that's what is my personal view on it. A lot of very attractive speakers, but then you got to check whether he's really a Jnani and what kind of a person. Even YouTube channel guys are much better. In individual lives who never come on the YouTube, they're very powerful. They manipulate people, they hold them to ransom, they manipulate them emotionally, all sorts of things. Looking at the vulnerability of a person who is struggling with life, they take advantage of it. You just have to stay away from these people. Okay. So Sahanam, so what he's saying, Sastrasya Guru Vakyasya. So here the primary importance is given to what? The word of the texts, Sastra, the Upanishads. Not the Tantra. There are a lot of other books, right? Physics, geography, chemistry, occult sciences, all kinds of books are sold in the market. By Shastra, we are saying what is Mokshakaraka, Upanishads, the great Vedantic texts. Otherwise, you will get lost in Vedavata Rataha, Puspitam Bacham. They tell you very sweet words. You do this karma, you'll go to Swarga. No, don't try to get dissuaded from your path of truth by these lovely sentences mentioned in the Vedas. Focus on the Upanishads. So Shastra and Guru Vakyasya, whatever the Guru Acharya does to you, explaining this Satya Buddhya Avadharana. So you have to have Satya Buddhi Avadharana. You have to accept them as true. Have to have faith in them, respect them. Otherwise, nothing is going to happen. Even in Laukika thing, if the student, I keep mentioning that, the little child sent to the kindergarten starts challenging, why should I learn natural numbers? He'll never progress in mathematics, isn't it? So you have to have some sort of a faith, and you have to be on the path for something to happen. If you start doubting on day one, nothing's going to work, whether it is spiritual sadhana or material growth and prosperity, whatever you are pursuing in your life. Okay, so Asraddhanaha Purusha Dharmasyasya Varantava Aprapya Mang Nivartante Mrityu Sansara Vatmani. Those who do not have faith in what I'm saying, my dear friend, they're going to return to this earth again and again to suffer. That's what Bhagavan said. So, when the Guru tells Tattvamashi, you are that. So, or he saying, Na asitvam sansari kintu nitya suddha buddha mukta swabhavam param brahmeva anyat sarvam mithya. My dear student, you are not a body, you are not a man, you are not a woman, you are not rich, you are not poor. Na asitvam sansari, you are not a sansari worldly person. But I am doing a job, I have a wife, I have children. He said, yeah, fine. That is your mind-body complex. But you are beyond that. And you are Nitya Suddha Buddha Mukta Swabhava. You are Param Brahma Eva. That is what Vedanta tells us. We may be caught in a traffic jam, struggling to find way. Vedanta tells you are Nitya Suddha Buddha Mukta. You might laugh at it, isn't it? I'm stuck in a traffic jam and I'm listening to this YouTube channel. It tells me that I'm permanent, I'm truth, and yeah, but you are confusing the Paramarthika Satya with a Vyavaharika existential predicament that you are subjected to. That truth is absolutely not affected whether you are in a traffic jam or you are sitting in a lovely air conditioned hotel room. Both are Vyavaharika, phenomenally real, ultimately ephemeral, not real. The only real thing is that Sadvastu that you are. That's what the Upanishad keeps hammering into our brains again and again. And that belief, that commitment truth, which enables us to break the barriers of ignorance and ascend to higher levels of realization, is called Shraddha. And in the next one, now what is Samadhana? We'll do this. So at least Mumukshitva you can do tomorrow, but let's finish Samadhana today. सम्यगास्थापनं बुद्धेः शुद्धे ब्रह्मणि सर्वदा तत्समाधानमित्युक्तं न तु चित्तस्य लालनम्. There's a beautiful word, chittasya lalanam. Lalana palana parents do in case of us. So the boy keeps crying. The mother first gives him a chocolate, some toffee. The baby still cries. Gives her a couple of dolls. The little boy cries again. The mother puts him on her shoulder and walks on, goes to the balcony, shows him the moon. The boy smiles for a while, again cries. The boy wants to go out on a walk. And maybe there is a park where he wants to go, maybe there is a temple where he wants to go. Till you take the boy to that park or to the temple nearby, the boy is going to cry. Okay? He's definitely going to cry. And therefore, what do? The mother picks up the child and goes there. Similarly, you do chittasya lalanam. That is the initial stages of when you are doing shama. You are trying to practice samatha. You will do this. You will replace the external inputs to your brain, to your mind, and by replacing it with maybe some japa. Maybe you will try to read some books. You do some pranayama or some meditation. That is a preliminary state of sadhana. But the samadhana is a very high level of resolution of the mind in samadhi. That is not similar as chittasya lalanam, to please the mind with something, with meditation or pranayama or anything. No, samadhana is very high thing. What is it? Samyak asthapanam buddhehe. Here you are bringing the buddhi, and because that is vicharavan. Buddhi is having vichara. You will do a kind of analysis. You will contemplate on the truth. So buddhe samyak asthapanam. Where? Suddhe brahmani sarvada. Nirvikalpaka. These, nirguna brahman. Dhyana stage initially you might meditate on Saguna Brahma, it's required. It's inevitable. You will pass through that phase. But finally, Samyagasthapanam Buddhi of the Buddhi. Suddhe Brahmani Sarvada. That is Samadhana. Remember that the Vedantic Samadhana is one step beyond that normal Patanjali Yoga Sutra kind of Yoga Samadhi. So you do that completely Suddhe Brahmani Sarvada. Tat samadhanam ityuktam. That is what is referred to as samadhanam. We studied in Patanjali Yoga Sutra while we are doing the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that the mind is like a river which can, flow in two directions, either towards Subha, auspicious things, or inauspicious things. So you have to guide the river of your mind, Chitta Vritti, guide them away from inauspicious things towards auspicious things, because the mind always moves in either direction. It cannot be stable. So it's better to sort of guide the mind towards auspicious things. Okay, these are the practices that you have to do it. And when you have, so that is manas, when you have the beginning. But finally, when you have that Suddha Brahmani, so the sama, dhamma, all that you are doing, they are kind of sadhana, means. And what is the sadhya? What is the end? End is that samadhi. That is the highest level. So first you will start doing disciplining of your senses, the dhammas, and you do shama of the disciplining of the mind, manas. But ultimately you have that buddhi established, the intellect established, powerfully established with very good analysis, without any faulty understanding, without any distraction. Distraction is about mind, manas, not buddhi. But here, without any doubt, not distraction, but without any doubt, is established in Suddha Brahman, Nirguna Brahman. So when it is established there all the time, then it is called Samadhana. So we will do the Mumukshitvam in the next session, where also different kinds of desire for liberation. That is also discussed at length. So today we have done these qualities: Viveka, Vairagya, then Samadhi, Satka, Sampati. And Samadhi, Satka, Sampati, what we discuss? We discuss about Sama and Dama, Uparati, Titiksha. Uparati is withdrawal, Titiksha is Dvandva Sahanam, endurance, and then Shraddha, faith in the words of the Guru and the text that you are reading, and Samadhanam, that resolution of the intellect by establishing it all the time in the Nirguna Brahman, not in Saguna Brahman, not in Nama Rupa, not in Devatas. Remember, this is a very high level, because now we will get into the Vichara of the Vedantic insights in the Upanishads. This is a beautiful summary of all Upanishadic insights in Viveka Chudamani. We will enter into that in the next class. So we'll stop here. Any questions you have? Or anyway, I'm putting an end to the YouTube thing. Thank you for listening. And any questions you can ask in the Google Meet.